I'm so excited to talk to you guys because honestly, this whole week I've been thinking about 1988. 1988.
I'm trying to remember why.
We'd been married 2 years.
We went to Korea together. Yep.
Oh yeah,
Which
that's
one?
right. Korea.
Oh, that's
It was
right.
big for me because I
Never
think about it
mind.
all the time because of our Korean Continentals. That
Yes, I have it listed there.
what created the momentum there. So yeah, 88 is very special to
Hey,
me.
now that you're saying it, I actually wrote it down in some notes as I was getting ready just to talk. Um, I remember thinking that's where we would end up.
Yeah,
That we were thinking, okay, Korean Continentals, we're going to go start it. Now, obviously,
yeah,
Mike Harcrow was the much better fit,
yeah.
but it's just what path you think you're going to do, and then all of a sudden it goes another direction.
That's amazing. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I had talked to Cam multiple times. Said, Cam, I think this is where we're supposed to be, and kind of chugged along, and it never went anywhere. And all of a sudden, Mike Harcrow stepped into it, and it's like, oh, that's why it didn't go anywhere for us.
And
Wow.
actually, immediately from there, we ended up at the first church that he pastored.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
88. That's right.
Now I'm with you on
Yeah.
1988.
Yeah, sorry to throw the
That's
curveball
a
at you.
big year, actually.
Yeah. Well, talk a little bit about it. How does your continental experience show up in what you're doing now, and tell us what you're doing?
You know, it's interesting. I again, just thinking through, because it's been years since I've actually processed specifically.
Yeah.
I know that Continentals has always impacted what I do because there are people that I just look back at and I go, okay, this person impacted my life, and this person said this, and this person did that, and it's really been a part of every part of my life, our lives since we've been married, and even mine before that. Cam and Cher and Michael Mahoney and Ken Wagner and
Mhm.
things that they said, Jim, you can do this impacts. So it's pretty powerful.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's been years. That's like 35 years ago.
Yeah, I started with first in 83 with Michael. We went to Asia. I think it was the longest Asian overseas portion that had ever been. It was like 5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
That is long.
And that was a lot of fish for breakfast.
Yeah.
But then from there, I did 85 with Dan Whitehead, the World Vision Tour, where I met Steve White, my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And then the next tour was actually, he came someplace, Wisconsin, to see us. And there were a few of us that he picked off from that tour because he needed our voice parts, and it was going to be a Canadian tour with a lot of younger, singers or musicians. So there were the three of us that he picked were older, and we were all out of college. And he said, frankly, I need the age on the tour. So we came along, and then the rest is history. So then
37 years later, we're still married.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've been in ministry that whole time, or?
No, there have been multiple things. You again, you think a certain path is going to go. When we traveled in 1988, we went through a church in Seattle area, and while we were in the church, we talked to the pastor, and pastor said, "Hey, are you interested in a job?" And we had already been talking, okay, is it time to be done with Continentals? You start wrestling. When is it time to step out of that?
Yeah.
And we basically did an interview right there.
Yeah.
They saw me direct the concert, saw that, interviewed in a sense. And that night he actually walked and said, well, this is where your office will be. And this is,
We're hold up.
Okay. Well, that ended up being the place that we started. And so 5 years in Seattle. And then again, through some amazing circumstances, we ended up at 14 years in Chico, California. It's where we are still at a church here. And then somewhere in that 14 years, things didn't go the way we thought they would. And we left full-time ministry. Did a couple things in between. I started a company. It was a backline rental. So if you do a concert and you need equipment for it, I had all the equipment. I would rent it to you. So backline for concerts, festivals. And then I worked with a business partner on running festivals and concerts and that type of
Production.
event. Spirit West Coast in California. years and years, my partner and I ran the stages. That's what we did.
Wow, that's a big event.
Huge
It was
events.
huge
Yeah,
event.
huge events.
Yeah.
So we ran all those things, and then that kind of ended, and I ended up selling Aflac. I'm surprisingly quite good at it, but I hated it.
Hated it.
I still get residual income from it, so I clearly was good at it. And now I'm a teacher. I've been teaching high school, which I said I would never do.
Mhm.
And I teach instrumental music and recording arts. I have a recording studio in a high school.
Sounds
So
perfect.
one apart from one in LA that I know of that does this, pretty unique. And Robin's a realtor.
I've been a realtor for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, talk
So
about some of the takeaways for your Continental experience. Like, what are the principles that show up in even in your real estate business? I mean, what are the things that stick with you?
it'll work. You can always make it work.
I love that.
I don't know how many times, no matter what church we went into, what venue hall we went into, the smallest stage, the largest stages, there's always a way to make it work. And I have used that mantra over and over. These are very challenging times in real estate right now. So you can pray for that.
Yeah.
And with clients who are just barely squeaking by, I have to find a way to make it work for them. And I'll bring in all of my industry partners to help us get there. And I absolutely credit that. I'm going to go back to Michael Mahoney because that's the first time I ever heard it. No matter what it is, it will work. And we always made it work. So yeah.
That's actually, I make it happen. I think make it happen. I heard that from Cam. I heard that from
Yeah.
Michael. I never toured with you guys, but
I know.
I feel like we know you pretty well from
Rehearsal camp.
because rehearsal camps, a couple of spring rehearsal camps, and then Steve, because he traveled with you so much.
He
He
was
and
my
I,
anchor man for several years. Yeah.
Yeah.
he and I've had many leadership conversations through the years. And they were always positive back to your leadership and your tours.
Well, that's gratifying.
And that make it happen. You can do it. I still use it with my students on a regular basis.
Yeah.
They'll come up, well, I can't do this. You know how kids whine. All right, well, I'm working with high schoolers, so they really whine.
Yeah.
It's like, you figure it out. You can do this. And that is that thing that for me tied into, you can do it. You can make it happen.
Yeah.
The thing I would add to that is not so much us centric is, delight yourself in the Lord and he's going to direct it.
What a gift we were all given at a young age.
Oh, yeah.
Hold those kinds of things. It's such a gift.
What happened for you guys individually, spiritually, in terms of your growth on tour and things like that?
I started when I was 16. My first tour was with Jim and Janice Chafee, Steve Taylor as the assistant director, and Julia Winterberg as the assistant director. Remember that year?
Well, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I will never forget. I mean, this is a tangent, but I will never forget that opening night in the big room in Arrowhead Springs. And Steve Taylor did something like I Want to Be a Clone, one of those kind. I still have a cassette, a rough mix cassette of that recording.
Wow.
Oh
So,
my God.
little side thing. I've run into him a couple of times at concerts and events in recent years, and that's been fun. But back to the original question, I started at 16, and that was such a critical growth time. Now I can't remember what it was, that blue manual, the discipleship. What was it?
DTS, discipleship training.
Was it just discipleship training something?
Yeah.
It was so simple, but it started a discipline of daily devotions.
Right.
That type of thing. And that's obviously carried on. After 20 years in full-time ministry, you learn how to incorporate. And I went back and used some of that material for the discipleship of my worship teams, things like that, or of small groups that I was a part of, or things like that. So there was a very tangible connection. And then you tie in all the other things of getting out on the road and being faced with what seemed like impossible circumstances, the faith required, the prayer, the walking through tough relationships on the bus, figuring out how to disciple, how to train. All that stuff was very impactful and shaped my life. Michael Mahoney was doing a lot of teaching and thinking about leaving Continentals for being a pastor. And that last tour I did with him in the spring of '86, he taught
Yeah, it was.
nonstop and even left the discipleship training stuff, but just I still pull back notes from his teaching.
I guess one of the things that happened actually on my very first tour, and I would say it transformed my worship. It changed my passion. It changed my ability to release stuff that, is in there that you never knew.
Have you ever wished you could gift your life-changing Continental experience to someone else? Well, you can. Your monthly giving can make a huge impact for our teams all over the world. Did you know that this year, we'll have more than 20 Continental groups on the road, communicating in 7 different languages? The Continental story goes on, so keep writing your part of it by being on our support team. And our groups will say, thank you, in 7 different languages.